a body in the ice, an arrow in his back, a wound on his hand, and blood on his blade that was not his own. For 5,300 years, no one knew who he really was. DNA says otherwise. On September 19, 1991, two hikers climbing the Tiefenjoch Pass in the Ötztal Alps spotted a shape emerging from the melting glacier. At over 3,200 meters above sea level, they believed they had found a modern tragedy, a lost mountaineer frozen in a shallow gully. They alerted the authorities. The recovery team arrived with hand tools and a jackhammer. For several days, they fought the solid ice to free the corpse, accidentally cracking long bones and tearing through ancient clothing. First responders handled the remains without gloves, leaving modern DNA on the bones. But when researchers analyzed the remains, the modern assumption vanished. Radiocarbon dating revealed the body was over 5,300 years old. This was not a contemporary accident victim, but a survivor of Europe's Copper Age, the oldest naturally preserved human mummy ever found on the continent. The discovery triggered an international media storm and a geopolitical custody battle. Both Austria and Italy claimed the mummy until a precise border survey located the find 92 meters inside Italian territory. In 1998, the dispute ended when officials transferred the remains to the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano. Today, he rests in a climate-controlled chamber kept at -6 degrees Celsius, preserved under strict humidity to protect the ancient evidence from decay. For 3 decades, a familiar image dominated textbooks and museum displays: a simple, weathered mountain herder who lay down to die in an alpine blizzard. But the physical evidence tells a different story. This was not a generic ancient skeleton. This was a physical archive of a lived life. Beneath the glacier, his internal organs, stomach contents, and even microscopic red blood cells remained intact. His skin bore 61 carbon tattoos. They were not decorative art. They were dark parallel lines sliced into the skin and rubbed with soot, clustered in neat groupings around his ankles, knees, and lower back. Every cluster targeted the exact joints ravaged by severe age-related arthritis. Long before modern medicine, these markings served as a physical treatment for chronic pain. He was remarkably well prepared for the high altitude. 2 hours before his death, he consumed a dense, high-fat meal of wild ibex meat, red deer, and coarse einkorn wheat. He wore garments sewn from at least 5 different animal species, including a heavy bearskin cap, a woven grass cloak, and thick leather shoes insulated with dried grass. His gear was designed for survival. He carried a flint dagger, an unfinished longbow, and a leather quiver holding only 2 completed arrows. Most revealing of all was his axe, forged from nearly pure copper. In the Copper Age, owning a metal tool was an extraordinary display of wealth. This was an object of elite status. This was not a humble shepherd. This was a man of influence, heavily equipped, moving with deliberate speed across the high pass. The elite traveler was running for his life. Hours before his climb into the cold peaks, a blade sliced into his right hand, cutting the flesh between his thumb and index finger. The wound had already begun to heal, a defensive injury from a struggle that occurred hours earlier. He had fought back. Modern forensic analysis of his gear found the blood of 4 other individuals. 3 separate blood profiles stained his small flint dagger. A 4th coated his grass cloak. None of this blood was his own. He had wounded or killed his attackers, fled into the freezing heights, and believed he had escaped. But the pursuit followed him up the mountain. As he traversed the high pass, an invisible shooter drew a bow from behind and below. The flint arrowhead tore through his back, slicing his left subclavian artery and lodging beneath his shoulder blade. He collapsed, the wooden shaft broken or pulled away, bleeding out in a silent gully. For over a decade, science claimed to know exactly what this ancient traveler looked like. In 2012, researchers published his first whole genome sequence. The data painted a vivid picture: a light-skinned, brown-haired man with a thick beard, descended from pastoralists who swept in from the eastern steppe. Museums rebuilt his likeness. Textbooks printed his face. History, it seemed, was settled. But the foundation of this familiar image was compromised. During his 1991 recovery, rescue teams and scientists touched the frozen remains without gloves. Modern skin cells, sweat, and DNA seeped deep into the porous outer bone layers of the mummy. When laboratories analyzed these samples 20 years later, the sequencing technology could not separate ancient genetic material from modern contamination. The steppe ancestry, the fair complexion, and the hair actually belonged to the 20th century team that dug him out of the ice. The definitive portrait was a mistake, a biological mirage. To bypass the contamination, scientists changed their approach. In August 2023, a research team led by Johannes Krauss of the Max Planck Institute and URAC targeted the dense inner bone of the pelvis. Drilling deep into this protected cavity, they bypassed 30 years of modern handling. They achieved a high-coverage genome with an average coverage depth of 15.3 times. The resulting data, published in Cell Genomics, shattered the established portrait. The fair-skinned mountain herder vanished. In his place stood a man with the darkest skin pigmentation, yet identified in a contemporaneous European, a dark complexion closely matching the very color of the preserved mummy. The long flowing hair of museum models was genetically impossible. The new sequence revealed strong markers for male pattern baldness. He was almost certainly bald. Most striking of all, his supposed Eastern steppe ancestry disappeared entirely. He possessed almost 95% Anatolian Neolithic farmer DNA. He did not belong to the rising, dominant populations of his era, but to an isolated, ancient lineage being slowly replaced during his lifetime. This was not a genetic representative of modern Central Europe, but a genetic relic of its agrarian past. The textbook image was dead. The real man of the ice stood revealed. In 2025, a forensic team, led by Chiara Villa, reanalyzed his CT scans, exposing a hidden detail. Deep within the shoulder, they identified a hematoma measuring 110 milliliters. This pooled blood proves his heart continued to pump after the impact. He did not die instantly. He lived long enough to reach behind his back and wrench the wooden shaft from his shoulder, leaving only the flint tip behind. His final moments were slow and painful. Botanical evidence changed his timeline. Investigators found hop hornbeam pollen in his digestive tract, a plant that only flowers in late spring. He did not perish in an autumn blizzard. He died in the spring, his body lying exposed through the warm summer months before freezing. He fled north across passes above 3,000 meters, carrying a valuable copper axe, but only 2 usable arrows. His hand bore a fresh defensive wound. His gear held the blood of others. The pursuit followed him into the high peaks. As he stopped, a shooter standing downhill drew a bow. The flint arrowhead, sourced from southern valleys, struck him from behind. The killer left the priceless axe and vanished. No one returned for the body. 5,000 years later, a shape emerged from the melting glacier. We now know his true face, his dark skin, his final meal. Yet the mountain keeps its deepest secrets. We will never know the killer's name, the motive, or the final words spoken on the ice. Subscribe for more forensic mysteries. We now know his face, his genetic code, and his final steps. Yet 5 millennia later, the hand that put the arrow in his back remains anonymous. DNA can reconstruct his life, but history still shields his killer. Subscribe for more deep dive mysteries.